In this recording, we shall go over the steps to create an advanced filter in Excel. An advanced filter is a tool like the normal filter, but it allows you to get the filtered result into a different worksheet on a different space on the worksheet, and also to filter out duplicate records. To do so, we first have to go into the Data menu and then choose the Advanced Filter. Now, the very first time I will just show you the menu and start you get going, and then I will introduce a few shorthands, tricks to make this especially efficient. At first, we have to decide whether we want to have the data in place, as in a normal filter, or to another location. The most interesting feature of the advanced filter is to put it into a different location. Here we have to choose then the list range, that means the table of data that we would like to have. Here we use the file Word CSV again. And then we have to say where criteria for selection in the filter are and where it should be copied. And these are things that will be on a different sheet. So basically we have to back up again and first define these elements on a different sheet. So I'll push now on cancel and go back and prepare the data in the way and the sheets in the way that we will need them. What we'll first do also, which is quite useful for the further work, is to give the range of data a name. If we give it a name, it's easier to refer to later on in the work. So we will select all the data. Let me remind you of a couple of tricks on selecting all the data. We can either go to the first field on the top left and then push on Ctrl-Shift-End. This will select all the data. Or I could go into the first field of the data and take Ctrl-A simply. This requires that there's only one big range on the table, that's a select all. Or we can also go anywhere in the data table and select the surrounding range by giving the combination Ctrl-Shift-Star. If we do that again, we select the entire data range. We give it a name by going into the name box. Here I will give the name all data. The name all data, if I now go into a different field in cell in the worksheet and I say all data, will select the entire range. All data is a name that will now be available in the entire workbook. One can also arrange names which are only available on the sheet one is working on. For doing this, one has to go in the formula menu and use what's called the name manager, but we won't do that here. So what we will need is a second sheet in which we will stick the results. And as you read in the menu before, we need something that is the criteria area and the extraction area. Both of them I will preset with the variables in our data set, but we can also take only a subset of variable. So here I will define two areas, one that will hold the heading for the criteria range and the other one for the extraction range. If we work with the criteria range, and I should make the size of the Excel a bit larger to zoom in, we select an area and we mark it as an input zone. If we do this, let's see, well, let's get a good color for this. So this is an input zone, and this will then be the extraction area. And I will color that in blue. Okay, now we have an extraction area and a criteria area, and to show you what criteria means is, for example, I would like to extract the observations corresponding to Belgium. So what we want to do is to get data from the sheet that's called World, and we would like to extract only the records that are referring to Belgium. We do this by using the advanced filter, which is in the data menu. Sometimes it gives this message that it doesn't know where the list is. This is not a big problem. We can say just OK and give it by hand. And now we took the effort, we want to get it in another location. We took the effort of naming the range that we want, so we can simply say all data here. Then we have to set the criteria range. The criteria range is this area here. And then we have to set the copy to range. This is that area. Furthermore, we could decide that we only want to filter out unique records. If we do this, let me push on OK in a moment, it will take all the records pertaining to Belgium, but if there is a duplicate record, that means a record that has exactly the same observations, it will not be put twice. So here we see what this does. Now, obviously we would like to change here Belgium into Germany, for example, in order to extract information for a different country. Only problem is this type of filter is not automatic. We have to make it automatic. Making it automatic is only possible by going through macros. If we go through macros, we can record what we do and then we can execute it again. Macros are available in the developer ribbon. I already have it, you may not. If you don't have the developer ribbon, it is in the options, customize ribbon. You have one choice that is called the developer ribbon. It could be that in your case this one is not selected. If it is not, please do so. So let's go into the macro way of doing it. There we just have to carry out the same steps as before and then close up the macro recording. How do we record a macro? We have to go into developer ribbon. In the developer ribbon we say we record a macro, in which case we get a little screen, a little menu, and here we can give the macro a name. Let's call that refilter, and we can also give a shortcut key. Let's give here Shift R for refilter. So if we get the key combination Control Shift R, it will do the work again. If we say OK, the recorder is going. What we now have to do is to repeat exactly the steps that got us the advanced filter. So let's go into the menu again. We get again the message, no problem, all data. Copy to a different location, select the selection criteria. Now it already has created automatically a name for them. We just use it, and then we take the extraction criteria, and there we go. So now we can say, okay, unique records, fine, okay. We now extracted the information for Germany, it worked. At the end, we always have to make sure that we end recording. There's a little record button in the bottom where you can push to end recording, or you can go back in the developer menu, say stop recording. Now this is done. What you can now do, change Germany for Belgium. Obviously, it doesn't change it, because it doesn't know that it has to change. We have to tell it. So Ctrl-Shift-R will re-execute the macro. So this is already nice. Let's go one step further and make the macro such that when we change something in this criteria field here, it will automatically update, but not if we do anything elsewhere on the workbook. So let's go back into the macros. The macros can be looked at in the Visual Basic editor. This can be reached either from the developer menu or from the key combination Alt F11. Let's go from here. We will see a VBA project which is called Word CSV. This is bad news. If you would save it, it would save it as a CSV file, and CSV file cannot have macros. So we'll go out of the Visual Basic for Applications editor first and save the worksheet in a one that has macros enabled. Let's do so. Enabling macros, we save in a form that's called Macro Enabled Workbook. There we go. Now, next step, back into Visual Basic. Now we see the VBA project is Word.xls. What we want to do is to create a small macro which is sheet sensitive and which then calls refilter. The sheet that we wanted to work on is results. We can double click on it. Now we have macros with respect to that sheet. We have a general tab, but if we look here, we have also a worksheet tab. Now we have several possibilities. The most basic macro is selection change. This is not what's interesting to us. What we want to have is a macro which is actually change. Selection change we won't need, we take it away. Now, change has an argument which is called target. This is the cell that has changed. And we have to check whether this cell is in the range for selection criteria. The way of asking for this is a little bit strange. It involves a complicated if statement, which I will just formulate and then explain. If not intersect target range criteria is nothing, then refilter and if. Let's indent the refilter to make it easier to read. So what does this if statement do? It first looks at whether there is an intersection between the target range and the criteria range, and checks whether this intersection is actually nothing. If it is nothing, that means we clicked on the cell which is not in the criteria range. But we want to check whether it actually is something. Something is the contrary, is the complement of nothing. So if actually the target range intersects the criteria range, then we refilter. This is somewhat of a strange formulation. You just try to remember whenever you need it. So we close the Visual Basic editor and we say save, Ctrl S. And now when we change Belgium to France, it will automatically update. If we then say larger than 2000, it will only filter out the values from year 2001 and so on. This ends the little tutorial about using the advanced filter in Excel. Enjoy!